Monkey.
I believe the Conor Benn versus Chris Eubank Jr. fight is a win-win for Conor Benn. Now, first and foremost, if Conor Benn loses to Chris Eubank Jr., he has the caveat, the opportunity, the excuse to say, well, I'm a 147 pounder and I'm moving up to 157 pounds. I'm going up almost two weight divisions, going past 154 pounds and almost going to 160. Not quite giving Eubank those extra pounds. And I also believe there is a rehydration clause within the contract. If there's no rehydration clause within the contract, just confirm it for me in the comment section down below, guys. But I do believe there is a rehydration clause. So yeah, first point is that he has a caveat and can say that, I am moving up in weight and I'm taking big risks. The second reason why this is a win-win situation for Conor Benn is because it's going to put him on the map. I suspect he'll gain a lot of fans, not just domestically in the UK. I'm sure people in the UK are familiar with Conor Benn, but also internationally. Now, we all know about the rivalry between their dads, Chris Eubank Sr. and Nigel Benn, and I suspect that they'll try to play on the fact that their fathers were rivals and try to use that to promote the fight. And it's done a pretty good job because if we're being realistic, that's the only reason this fight is taking place. If their dads never fought or had a rivalry prior, would Conor Benn really be fighting Chris Eubank Jr.? So those are the two reasons why I believe it's a win-win situation for Conor Benn. First reason is that people will praise him for the fact that he's moving up, almost two weight divisions just to fight Chris Eubank Jr. And the second reason is, he's going to become more of a star. He could potentially catapult into a superstar for taking this fight. In all honesty, I would probably prefer Conor Benn to stay at 147 pounds though. When you're looking at the landscape of the 147 pound division, obviously you've got guys like Crawford and Spence, but after Crawford and Spence, the division is quite open. And I look at a few guys. I look at Jaron Boots Ennis, I look at Virgil Ortiz, and then I also look at Conor Benn as the kind of new breed for welterweights. I suspect Spence and Crawford will move up in weight after their undisputed fight, which is not confirmed, but let's just think positively and say they'll have an undisputed fight. Let's say after that fight they move up to 154 pounds. The belts are there. They'll relinquish the belts, whoever wins, and Conor Benn will have the opportunity to be a world champion. Though I do suspect after the Eubank fight, he's going to go back to 147 pounds and fight and campaign at that weight class for probably several more years. From what I've seen, Conor Benn isn't a massive welterweight. A big welterweight is somebody like an Errol Spence, who looks like he's about 170 pounds. Something crazy like that. That's probably a bit of a stretch, but Spence is massive. He looks like he's in the 160s on fight night. But yeah, I just felt like it would have made more sense to stay at 147 pounds to fight Ortiz and to fight Ennis. However, you cannot criticize him for wanting to go up to 157 pounds at a catchweight to fight Eubank because he's going to make a lot of money. And if he is able to beat Chris Eubank Jr., he's going to get a lot of credit, which he would deserve. Chris Eubank Jr. In the press conference was talking about, I'm only going to be 60-70%. Now, some people say he's just laying out the foundational, excuses for when he loses and that, Eubank Jr. is being a sore loser and so on and so forth. Eubank Jr. was saying how he hasn't been at this weight since he was about 18 years old. So essentially, Eubank Jr. doesn't believe he needs to be at 100% in order to beat Conor Benn. So maybe he might be overlooking Conor Benn, and maybe that might be to his detriment. Chris Eubank Jr. has the personality of a very laid-back person. We all know that individual in life in general, beyond boxing, who's extremely calm, who's extremely laid-back, who almost seems like they don't take life serious. Somebody who is very composed, He does what he needs to do, and then he's off. That's Eubank Jr. But Eubank Jr. might be right about not needing to be 100% because, I mean, can Conor Benn really outbox Eubank Jr.? Eubank Jr. is going to have, the reach, height, weight advantage over Conor Benn. And Conor Benn isn't a particularly big puncher, at the 147-pound division. So, he's not going to carry power from 147 that he doesn't have to 157 pounds, is he? So I suspect it's going to be a very difficult fight for Conor Benn. And to be honest, I heavily favor Chris Eubank Jr. But it really just depends. If the weight can affect Eubank Jr., it could probably, allow Conor Benn to make the fight extremely competitive or potentially even win the fight. Because if he's draining himself to 157 pounds and he knows that most of his work will be put into losing weight rather than the technical aspects of boxing, he might not be sharp come fight night because he hasn't trained enough in terms of boxing skills. He's been, doing probably too much cardio. He's probably overtrained in terms of trying to lose weight, and he'll probably feel very weak. That's the only way I can see Eubank Jr. losing, is if he feels awful at the weight. He might be extremely chinny, trying to get back down to that weight, and also trying to, or should I say being forced to, not gain a certain amount of weight after the weigh-in. So those were just my thoughts on Chris Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn. Who do you guys think will win, and why do you think they'll win? Alright guys, don't forget to like and subscribe. Peace.